I'd say what happened, like the cycle now, I've pitched thousands of times at this point, to raise
Mhm.
funding. I've gotten like my hair blown back from people like screaming and saying like such negative things. And it will like, typically I'll get down for like a day, like 12
Mhm.
hours. I will feel like internal depression. And then I just have to think like, this is just part of the journey. Like, how boring
Mhm.
would the story be? Like, oh, amazing. Here's the money you need and go
Mhm.
ahead. And like the negative impact of that when you have it so easy. And I just think this is what's going to make it so great in the end. And I dust myself off.
With that, I'd love to welcome you to our latest episode of Facing Disruption. And this one is going to be really fun because it's covering all three pillars of content. We're going to get into building rockstar products. We're going to be getting into experimenters' mindset. And we're going to talk about the future of fashion. So, introducing you, Caroline, founder in the fashion tech space. And I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself, but we've been talking for a little while now about what it means to be a tech founder, not on the tech side, entrepreneur, starting something new, being that underdog. How can you find success with your product, with product market fit, understanding your customers, but then also how do you survive as both the underdog and solopreneur to entrepreneur and just all of the stress that comes with that. So with that, let me turn it over to you to introduce yourself a little.
Awesome. Thank you so much, AJ, for the intro. Caroline Lakshmanan, we're building Cloud Closet, a social shopping platform rooted in your existing wardrobe. What does that mean? It means we're solving for all of those moments when you're about to walk out the door and you wonder if you should tuck your shirt in or out. Do you need a belt? Which shoe is better, the shoe on the right or the left? Those moments where you might be calling down your spouse, sending a message to the group chat. We're facilitating that, moving the group chat to Cloud Closet. We're taking into account what you already wear every day, and we're offering you product recommendations based on that, and presenting it in a really gamified, fun, social way, which we believe is the future of e-commerce.
And I love that, especially as somebody who, as I've looked through my previous 20 episodes, I pretty much wear the same two shirts every time. So, getting more help and advice in what do I wear, what fits, especially what fits with your specific body type and what you do and your personality, I think is huge. So, we're getting to a point where, yeah, the social aspect really helps. And then we'll get a little bit into the technology, I'm sure. But I think the community is a big one, both your customer community, but we're also going to talk about the entrepreneur community that you're involved in. So let's start with, the underdog advantage, something you and I have talked about. It is hard going from 0 to 1. I know it. A lot of our listeners know it. You know it. But also, I think that there's some advantages to starting small and being scrappy. So let's talk about your experience there.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm listening to you give me that description. And I'm like, has that just been my coping mechanism? As I hear all the news in my industry. Um, but no, I think it's true. I think as I watch over the past 6, 10 months, all of the money being poured in and who it's gone to, and how, some folks have gotten a lot more money than we have with a lot less of an idea and a lot less proven idea. And it can feel, you feel that fire in your stomach of like, how am I going to do this? Right. And I think I just got to the point with Cloud Closet of like, okay, we know what we're doing. This is great that these products have have raised all this funding because it proves that we're right. And
Mhm.
everybody's dancing around the fire, but no one's hitting the pulse that we are. Um, so, there were the questions in my mind of like, should we have raised sooner? Should we have gotten out of stealth sooner, a year earlier? But I don't agree because I was working full time gig in fintech at a Series A
Mhm.
with no product market fit, like in New York, just hustling. I didn't have the time and attention that I could since I left my day job 10 months ago, which where the magic could really happen. Um, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I think it's great seeing these competitors come out and be like, okay, they're still not hitting it. And yes, they can crush me with the tens of millions of dollars that they have and I don't. But if we take this measured approach quietly, and they're barely looking at us, they're just like tapping on us, like, okay, maybe they're
Mhm.
interesting. They don't really have money. They don't matter. Um, I know that we will come out of the woodwork and prevail ultimately
Mhm.
is one facet. And then the other facet is there's a lot of market share to go around. Um,
Mhm.
no one has found their footing in this industry, money raised or not, in the fashion tech space. I think there will be a lot of like collaborations and joining of businesses. And I see what's happening is people are turning to niche solutions, actually. And like you can see that with Substacks. Um, recent raise. They raised a massive Series A, and there's a lot of people on there right now. But like, do I think every average person's going to be using Substack? No, I don't.
Mhm.
So there will be room for us to take some of that market share in the e-commerce space too.
Yeah. And when I think about raising all this money, one of the things is that comes up a lot is the money is never free,
Yes.
right? And obviously people think, okay, the investors are going to want to return. At the same time, I don't think as many people think through what that means, right? The investors are going to want to return, but that also means that they're going to begin to bring their own opinions of how things should be run, the direction that the product should be going. Uh, are you seeing some of that with your competitors or other companies in the space that are raising, $50 million?
Yeah, totally. Um, yes. But to that point, I think there's something, and from being at a company myself that was like this, right? You lose touch with like the grassroots, like the folks who are talking about this problem all the time because you
Mhm.
have this money, right? So like you're not in the Substack group chats, you're not at the mixers networking, on the ground. Like, so that's why I thought of it as this like blessing, if you will, because I can kind of sit and see like, oh my gosh, they're like kind of offering, I don't know if I can say like a half-assed approach when like I
Mhm.
have no choice but to
Mhm.
bring like look at everything and study and research, like so to the point that I know this probably way better than any of them because they don't
Mhm.
need to. And then I think the longevity of your business will suffer because
Mhm.
you're not aware because you feel you're kind of so high up, you're missing the mark. Um,
Mhm.
it goes
Yeah,
beyond the
that's
product.
that's a great point around founder-led sales, right? It's really, really challenging. And I face the same thing as I'm looking to grow the team for facing disruption. And my innovation agency is, how do you find people who are as passionate and as firmly uh, believing in what you're doing, right? Because the
Yes.
wrong hire could derail things. Um, so that's difficult. But I love what you're saying about saying boots on the ground and in the weeds. And that goes back to founder led sales, where you have to be in the problem. And that goes into like the customer obsession side of things, right? Knowing your customer, knowing their challenge and focusing on the challenge first. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. despite like just getting out of stealth mode and everything 10 months ago, we've been working on this really for 2.5 years.
Mhm.
Um, and this being like, there's something wrong with the e-commerce, in the sense of when I started in the industry in 2011 and buying, e-commerce was, an afterthought. Stores were king.
Mhm.
They were amazing. Like you'd go to New York, obviously is always going to be above and beyond, but like now I don't even know where I would go to stores. It's just not exciting. It's not fun. It's so rare. Whereas before everybody was, shopping in stores. And as we moved more and more online and COVID propelled us
Mhm.
extremely, it was like, what we're relying on just Google results. And like, yeah, it does the trick if you will, but like so many of us realize like, we could be so much better based on the
Yeah.
technology that we do have. So that was like part of it, search. And then it was this wardrobe digitization in the sense of like, hey, I want to be able to like flip through my wardrobe and on my iPad, and
Mhm.
I want to make more thoughtful decisions around the pieces I'm buying. Whereas right now it feels like I'm just like, let me search that and see what happens. I want real time decisions.
Mhm.
Um, and so we started looking, in 2022, 2023, and there were a couple solutions, two great players, Index and one called Wearing out of the UK. But I just kept thinking like, okay, they're kind of popular, but like, why aren't they viral? Why when I tell people that I'm working on wardrobe digitization, they're always like, oh my gosh, I wish I had those. And I'm like, there's
Mhm.
80 apps in the app store,
Mhm.
doing this. And so it was the innovation piece that we were looking at. I was like, all right, we can't reinvent the wheel. And what I
Mhm.
see of all these competitors, my competitors, they're feature factories. I open it and I'm overwhelmed. And then working, in the fintech space and creating these like delightful customer experiences. I was like, okay, we need to exhibit or reformat a behavior that's already happening. And so there's a viral TikTok trend, 165 million views and comments and 200,000 videos created on it. Where influencers and people alike were taking their outfit selfies daily, which a lot of Gen Z and millennials do. They just sit in their camera
Mhm.
roll. Um, and they were making them stickers, pressing them down, making them a sticker, and then moving them to their notes app and organizing them. This was, our society's obsession with the clueless closet. This was like a rendition of that. And I thought I was doing it, but it was still cumbersome and like shrinking the sticker. I couldn't even do it every time, but I was like, this is genius. We know millions of people are into this and doing it. And it's a treasure trove of data. It's way more helpful than my search history or my purchase history because that's the problem. I wear the same things you just said. You wear the same t-shirts. I've worn this shirt like 3 days in a row. So, which is no problem with that, but it's like, okay, how can I just get connected with more items that are similar to this, like in my price point,
Mhm.
outside of just Googling it or asking
Mhm.
ChatGPT to tell me what to do, right? And just knowing, AI is an excellent tool. I was like, okay, I see what's coming out in these AI stylists. Everyone's touting them. And I'm like, they're great, but it will never solve the
Mhm.
problem alone. We want human feedback and human interaction on our
Mhm.
style choices. So that's where we set out to build innovation.
Yeah. And then as the founder, how are you personally trying to stay connected with your customers? You mentioned go to meetups and staying part of that community and some Substack. So, what are the types of things that you're finding the most effective for staying close to the customer? And how are you balancing that with building a team, scaling a team, owning a product? Like you have to represent that.
It's challenging. I think like the biggest challenge being finances. It's like the blessing and the curse because I can make magic with nothing, and that's the beauty of it.
Mhm.
That I don't know other people could do. But when you have like absolutely nothing, it's just really like I can't it takes me longer to make decisions because whereas I could just keep moving forward a little faster. But anyways, in staying with community pieces, Like, I want to host more things myself, and those aren't free.
Mhm.
I can do it very cheaply, but like I could host more if I just had a little bit more of a cushion. Um, Substack, as I mentioned, has been this kind of crazy uh, innovation in the fashion space that I
Mm,
think has been overlooked. There's loads of group chats where people are just asking all day, every day, styling advice and buying advice. Where do you get your underwear? Where do you and it just
mhm,
like sparked to me. Oh my God, consumers are starving for opinions because we're presented with so much, right? Like when you have 50 options of jean brands, and that's like being not exact, that's like, it's actually way more, right? Um, yeah, you're gonna wonder, you want reviews, right? We go to Yelp, we
mhm,
go to Google reviews, but it's hard to have that in fashion, right? It's like we used to rely on Vogue, kind of, and that's gone. So I've seen the fashion community move to Substack, and it's brilliant for fashion, but it's dense. It's
yeah,
it, it's led by newsletter writers, and I just flip through them really quickly because I get hundreds of newsletters. And so to your point, I was like, all right, I need to get into the mind of like non-fashion people, and how
mhm,
would they take this? And so then I've turned to Reddit, and Reddit has like a robust community on that too. But then like going to the people in my life who are non-fashion, people who don't live in metropolitan cities. My childhood best friend lived in New Hampshire, and I rack her brain for everything. And that was kind of how we worked to develop the product. Um,
mhm,
and then the other piece that I'm most excited about through networking and just going to so many events, women-led events, just because women are like more, they care more about what they're wearing and, you know, their looks, if you will. Um, I was connected to Dress for Success, which is a
mhm,
nonprofit organization. And that's been like the biggest gift. I like randomly was connected to it. I just joined the community in Austin, and like I'm working on building them a digital solution. And that's where like I'm like, this is genius. Like the product Dress for Success, literally what they do is help women who've just gotten out of prison or out of bad relationships, give them
mhm,
clothing for interviews. And they get
mhm,
2 outfits, and Cloud Closet can help them make those 2 outfits 4 or 6 by showing them different ways. So we're working on that partnership, but like that's where the community and the magic
mhm.
lies. Like, how are we actually changing the landscape of digital wardrobes and getting dressed?
Yeah, this is something that I've been focusing on more and more because the communities on the internet are so dense. And especially now, I think everybody is trying to get their voice out and trying to become a thought leader. And, the question is, how do you begin to differentiate yourself from that? And you mentioned hosting events, going to meetups in real life. And I am increasingly believing that the in real life connection is more powerful than online. And I'll caveat that the connections you have online are very powerful. Good things come from it. Absolutely. And you have a much further opportunity to reach customers in an audience. But at the same time, going up and standing in front of a group or getting a group together puts you front and center. And I feel like in the funnel of where you are today, being alone in an office, not where you are, but people who are alone in an office, right? That's at the
Yeah.
bottom of the pyramid. And then the top of the pyramid is having that meaningful one-on-one relationship with the person or the people that you need to get to. There are like different layers in there, right? One of them, what I would call passive, is just posting news art, writing articles, uh, posting on LinkedIn. It's passive in the way that one, you don't have that much control of who's seeing it. And two, it requires people to actually actively either search for you or see it. Then there's active, so getting people together. Then there's the one to many, which is like getting people together in a group setting, right? And then from there, you're getting the one-on-ones because they already know who you are. You've established yourself. And I think for each stage, there's fewer and fewer people as competition because it's scary to get in front of an audience, right? What is that? The biggest fear next to death is public speaking. So like automatically you public speak and bam, you're a thought leader. Now.
Yes. And Substack has kind of given way to that in a way, right? Like that I built a little audience from it because it was like, hey, anything that you niche that you focus on, you can write about. And I don't have a huge audience, but like it gives value and it has helped like people join our community around Cloud Closet in some degree. But my thing too is like, I don't mind public speaking, actually, believe it or not. I kind of love it, but this immense fear with like content online, if that makes sense. Like not this, but like a TikTok, like I have immense fear, a reel, an Instagram reel, anywhere where I'm talking and then like people can just like give their comments and like trolls can come, scares me so much.
I think it does take a level of separation. You see the people who react emotionally to that in the world. It's tough. I get it. I mean, you hear something negative about your baby and you're going to feel bad about it. So are there any strategies that you have found helpful in navigating the negative feedback / constructive feedback? Right? Because not everybody is going to fall in love with your product immediately. And it's also a gift to hear honest feedback because that's how you're going to iterate. So what are some of the things that you're implementing or that you find works to keep you happy and healthy while hearing this?
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I feel like we're like on the precipice of more of the negative things coming through just because we're about to launch in the App Store, whereas I can disseminate way more. Right now, it's been a closed MVP web app. And platform wise, we have some opportunities coming up where like hundreds of thousands of people will meet us for the first time. And so I keep like running that in my head of like how I'm going to react when I start to get the influx of negativity and whatnot, because it just will come. It's like with lightness comes darkness. Like the benefits of having the platform and having millions of eyes on it also open the floodgates of the trolls and this and just generally negative feedback. So I think mentally the key is I try to just like pour as much positivity into my life as I can. And what does that look like? It's like positive podcasts of just like uplifting and innovating me and positivity, like book and tons of gratitude. And like, I feel like the moment you step out of looking at like what's immediately in front of you, that's where all the anxiety lies and like the self-doubt. I'd say what happened, like the cycle now, I've pitched thousands of times at this point, to raise funding. And I would say I've been, I've gotten like my hair blown back from people like screaming and saying like such negative things. And it will like, typically I'll get down for like a day, like 12 hours. I will feel like this internal depression. And then I just have to think like, this is just part of the journey. Like how boring would the story be? Like, oh, amazing. Here's the money you need and go ahead. And like the negative impact of that when you have it so easy. And I just think this is what's going to make it so great in the end. And I dust myself off.
Yeah. This That's great because it feeds into the mental resilience that you need to build up as a founder, right? I think that if somebody is really, really throwing negative feedback at you, that's probably a good indicator to stop the conversation and walk away. Uh, if somebody is giving you constructive feedback, that's a lot more helpful, and
Right.
you could leverage that. But trolling and screaming, that sounds like somebody not to talk to anymore. So you almost have to be selective. And I think the thing that you said is right. You know, for 12 hours, you'll feel down. And this goes back. And I think that younger millennials, Gen Z, are better and more in tune with doing this, but feeling your feelings, right? You have to let them play out. I definitely think that there are things that you could do to truly feel your feelings, right? Journaling is one that I picked up a couple of years ago that is amazing. And pushing yourself to feel so
Yeah,
that you can get over it
I
and not
agree.
internalize it.
I agree. I'm grateful for like good friends and my
Hmm.
husband that I can like I feel bad for him because he's the brunt of it all. But I guess too, like just because someone said it doesn't mean it's true.
Hmm.
You know, I have to remind myself of that. Like, okay, just because an investor said to me, we don't need this and there's no point in this. Okay, well, you could say that about anything, right?
Hmm.
So I just have to like kind of coach myself. So I kind of talk to myself like I'm a friend. I'm my friend. And that's helped a lot too through this.
Yeah. And having those other people around you, and that goes back to your community that you're building, right? And the support that they're likely giving you.
Exactly. And that's actually the perfect point of when I am really down and I feel like the world's against me. I think like, well, you have Tucker and Olivia and Isabel and Steph, you know, all these people who are like working with us, working for me.
Hmm.
They believe in this. Um, there's something to be said about that.
Hmm. Yeah. And having them as people that will actively, proactively come out and give you support. You know, I think about this a lot. Uh, what is the term? Syncopats? You know, you have people who
Yeah,
surround themselves with yes men and women. And usually that's not the most positive, valuable thing to do. And I think there's also a kernel of good that can come from that. I think it's a balance. You need people who support you and say, yes, yes, that you're on to something. But they have to be authentic, and it has to be in some level that they truly believe and agree with you based on data. It can't just be yes people, but you need
totally.
someone pushing you up and supporting you.
Totally. That's what this is all about. I think like you're not in a silo. Anyone, even if you're a solo entrepreneur, which that's a whole nother beast, I think. But like even for us with my business partner and I, you know, it feels like I take on a lot of the brunt in many ways, but he'll acknowledge that. And it's nice. He's like, Caroline's, you know, getting all the punches, but you can't get to the other side without them. You know,
Hmm.
like was kind of like what we were talking about at the top of the call too. Like if you don't ask, you won't get. So, but also what comes with asking is rejection, too, the
Hmm.
chance to be
Hmm.
rejected. Um, so I think leaning on the team is great, but also I want to be a leader, right? So I've been trying to figure out that balance
Hmm.
because I've, you know, been in the startup world for some time and like, okay, you can wear your heart on your sleeve, sure, but like inspire, you know, it's this balance of inspiring, but also making your team feel safe too in this way of like, it's not safe for their jobs per se, but safe of like, you've got them, you've got their back.
Hmm.
Um, So I don't love always going to my team like another rejection from XYZ, right? But I'm like, so I always try to follow up exactly with like, okay, so that happened. And guess what, guys? We got these calls and we got these people who want to partner with
Mhm.
us. Um, we got this kind of narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been trying to get better at keeping a win journal. And when I say
Ooh,
win, I mean anything positive anybody says, copy, paste, it goes in the journal,
I
right? That
love
was a great
that.
conversation, goes in the journal. That was, a great webcast, goes in the journal. Uh, your opportunity funnel could be a great win journal. And then I want to tie that back to something that you were talking about, right? You said you had hundreds of newsletters that you flipped through. And then also, when we talked about all of these TikTok influencers, the people on Substack, there's lots and lots of influencers. So, how do you first split off the signal from the noise? And then, second, how do you prevent yourself from falling into the trap of imposter syndrome? Because every time you're on LinkedIn, hey, I just did this. Hey, I just did that. Oh my God. It is crazy.
It's crazy. My co-founder and I had a joke of like, everyone's like announcing their raises, and if we just wrote like, "Hey everyone, we just raised $5,000," like how no, it would be so random, and it's not what's celebrated because it's like we raised $5 million, but we laugh about that. So I think like one answer to your question is I'm super like lighthearted and I do not take myself too
Mhm.
seriously. And so yes, I'll get the moments of anxiety, imposter syndrome. Um, but I try to always meet it with like silliness, and none of this is real. Just because you raise that doesn't mean you will succeed. Um, but yeah, you mentioned something that was really poignant because I feel it so much, specifically with LinkedIn, right? So there's points of like muting certain things, that like
Mhm.
boundarying myself. Of like you don't need to know it, but I also have to participate. Like I have to. So
Mhm.
I try to like, even the ones that, might spark a feeling of inadequacy within myself, I try to lean into it and like put myself in their shoes and just be like, this is so awesome for them. Great. Like meet it with positivity and celebration.
Mhm.
Um, and then
I
the
love
other
that.
side, it's helped a lot, like with competitors in a way. It's like, let's be friends. I try my best to like talk with them and see if we can join forces, collaborate in any
Mhm.
capacity, which I think fashion tech really, really, really needs to do. But because no one's found their footing, it's this like really weird energy, frankly.
Mm.
But we're all navigating through that, and there's more positive than negative that I've experienced in that sense. And then Substack, it kind of goes to like, it's moving so rapidly. All of it's happening. So like when I feel the like, oh, you only have 1,000 followers, or no one likes your stuff, you don't get a lot of likes on things, and she gets whatever, he gets whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I try to remove again and say like, that's right now. And like Substack is this right now. It was nothing 6 months ago or 8 months ago. So
Mhm.
like it's gonna change again in 6 months. Um, and I am not my Substack,
Mhm.
and I'm not Cloud
I
Closet either.
I tell myself that as well. Today is the beginning of August in 2025. I have a whopping 68 Substack subscribers. But then I remind myself that was a little bit intentional because LinkedIn is my focus, right? To try to build an audience because I feel like that's where my audience is. So, yeah, you have to remind yourself what you're doing, why you're
Mhm.
doing it, and that you could only be intentional on so many things.
Totally. And to a key piece here is patience, and things take time. Despite
Mhm.
me talking about things moving so fast, Like the most popular people on Substack for the most part are OGs. They have been on there since the beginning. They have built this
Mm-hmm.
readership, and most of them in my like algorithm, they all like promote each other. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll feel this feeling of like I'll never be able to because they're all like tagging and promoting each other. So what I've been doing, which is interesting, this could be helpful for people. I was like, all right, I don't really have any of like the famous Substack people loving me per se, but I have friends who aren't on Substack, but they're awesome and they're on other platforms. So I'll just like write about them and tag them. And then it's just like little by little introducing more people to
Mm-hmm.
the platform. But I think the most important thing, and I think you could attest to this, is just remaining like as authentic as humanly possible. Like
Mm-hmm.
not putting out anything just to put it out, putting it out because you feel it's important and could help someone else. And
Mm-hmm.
is interesting and someone else could learn something from it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the big force behind what we're doing right now. It's valuable to share people's experience. And at some point, it's going to get in front of the people that it needs to and helps. And that's really fulfilling. And then,
Absolutely.
to the topic of competitors, because you use that term a lot, but then also, I love what you're doing trying to collaborate with them. It's maybe this is part of my uh, a bit of naive thinking, but I think that we may view competition a little too strongly, right? There's opportunities to collaborate that we're not taking advantage of. And with a market that's very large, all the ships are going to rise with the tide, right? If you're working together to expand the market, I would assume, there is room for people to grow. Now, I understand there is cutthroat competition. That is the way it is. Uh, but I think it exists in fewer spots than maybe we think it does.
I like that. I need to adopt that more. That way of thinking. Yes, I said the collaboration but that like takes a mental gymnastics to get to that
Mm-hmm.
point. It starts with like stomach dropping, like, oh no. And then I have to work to be like, okay, that's the way it is right now. You thinking they're like experiencing utter success isn't true. There's no uh,
Mm-hmm.
license behind that. Like we're so ingrained in our respective industries, right? Like the average person doesn't know about any of these raises. They've never heard of any of these technologies for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. Um, yeah, it's tough because it's just so different, right? Like, and maybe this gets into like our tech conversation, like what we're doing. I'm a non-technical founder, right? But I'm introducing technology in a way, but it's really about the format and it's about
Mm-hmm.
the UI, the UX, um, the customer experience. So that's where it's like, I'm trying to think like of times past. Um, I mean, like Facebook did that in a way, right? We were using MySpace and I think there was another one before it, and it just like presented something in a new format. It's not earth shattering technology that's like forcing us to change our lives. Um, so that's why I think competitively it's a little challenging because again, the technology isn't, we're not creating anything new per se.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned that a little bit with fashion and with a lot of brands, you're selling a feeling, an emotion, a way of being.
Yes.
And then the community around that as well. I think, one of the things Facebook did early on, it was only college students and it was very exclusive and it brought it in as a way to meet other folks uh, within your academic community. And I mean, I was on MySpace a lot and I don't think that there was a way to easily network within a smaller community like your college, right? You were looking on location based or friends of friends. So that feeling, that sense, I love what you're saying, the UI UX, that's the product side is closer to the challenge, right?
Yes.
Because now you're actually attacking the challenge. And, I'd love to hear a little bit about how AI is helping with it. But at the same time, AI is the tool. It's not the solution. It's just a part of it.
Exactly. And so I think from a positioning standpoint, that was super interesting. That's been really interesting over the past few months, because before it was like, you must mention AI. Like that's
Mhm.
so important or you won't get any funding. And that's what everyone thinks is cool. And then I remember I read this quote, AI, saying you're AI powered is like saying you have a toaster. And I was like, it's so true. Why? We don't need to be touting this. That's not the
Mhm.
point. Everything has AI. We're just like attaching AI to scan your products to offer you recommendations. And guess what? They're not going to be perfect either,
Mhm.
right? Because AI isn't perfect. Just like when you ask it certain questions, it's oftentimes you have to work it, right? You have to go back a bunch of different,
Mhm.
like when I'm brainstorming with ChatGPT, it takes a lot of time still. I'm grateful for it. I think it's amazing. But from an aesthetic standpoint, it's still extremely far off. So yeah, it's just about like, how do we create this? Yeah, it's to this balance of aspiration,
Mhm.
but but accessibility. And I think I have a lot of experience in this just because like I worked for TJ Maxx, Sears, Old Navy, and Farine and Christian Louboutin. Like I've had every type of job and or with every type genre of person, shopper that I've had to get into the head of. And then even in my fintech days, it's like I worked in buy now, pay later products primarily, which is like,
Mhm.
that's actually a huge spectrum of consumers. But it's like people who are really
Mhm.
struggling. And then, people who just, they make $500,000 a year, but they like to pay in four, for whatever reason
Yeah.
they're interested in that. Because it's psychological. So yeah, like I can't say we have the solve at this moment because you also can't create for everybody, right? Um, so that's why I'm really leaning into this fun component,
Mhm.
because I see like Facebook, not many people, it's a different genre who's like using that now. And Instagram, we're turning away from it. And it's like, why? It's becoming less fun. Um, and then we're like, from a social commerce perspective, the key players are Meta, Pinterest, and TikTok, the most
Mhm.
massive one. And I think like, okay, we all love TikTok, but like, why isn't that a true competitor to me in a way? Well, it's a massive ship. Most people have been on it for 15 years and just never posted one thing. I've never posted anyone I speak to, it's their experience. So I'm like, okay, how can we create an environment that incites that type of inspiration that Pinterest evokes, but like feels
Mhm.
like you don't feel like you need to be a content creator, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the difference between these other things. And Instagram, it's like it's all product categories. Pinterest, all product categories. Like, why can't we just hone in and focus on this that we know millions of people care about and talk
Mhm.
about daily of what they're wearing and what they're gonna buy next, frankly.
And I feel that goes all the way back to your original topic around raising money and the strings that come along with capital. And we didn't talk about it as much, but grow or die is the name of the game. So you end up seeing these products, like you mentioned. You go on the app was updated, you're overwhelmed by all of these features, and you're like, I don't understand what this means to me anymore. And you're right. You don't. I don't. And that's in part because now we have to capture more and more market. You're kind of diluting your niche just to get more people and
Right.
trading volume for specificity.
Right. Exactly. I think of that all the time. And granted, we still, need to capture our niche in the way that we need to. But we're building with that principle
Hmm.
in mind. I mean, it's like you think about Magnolia Bakery or Kiehl's, like they were these amazing niche, just a few shops, and then they had to become these national chains and like the recipe changed. It's like
Hmm.
with anything. So we have some ideas of how we can do this measuredly. And, maybe it's more in the membership capacity, maybe it's capping at a certain number of people. We have to see the way that things unfold.
Mhm.
Um, but I think, yeah, building with that in mind of like, I don't know, I just am so drawn to simple and stupid. I
Mhm.
think that's what makes people tick when it comes to building a product.
I agree with that. So I would love to wrap up some of the conversation with, you know, some of your lessons learned, some of your advice for other solopreneurs, other people, early stage, maybe even late stage. I'm sure these feelings continue to exist. So yeah, tell us some, actionable things that people should be implementing in their lives to just stay together.
Yeah, to just stay together. I mean, I think the summary of our conversation, a lot of it is like, don't underestimate the power of community in general, whether that be in person or offline, um, and do your best to bridge that gap between online and offline. Like, I love to shout out a community I really love. It's called Next Play. I found them via Substack. It's run by Ben Lang. And people will be like, well, why is it so? Because I just talk about it all the time.
Mhm.
I've hired team members from it. I've met so many amazing. I wouldn't be where I am today with Cloud Closet without
Mhm.
XPlay. And it's because it's like really everybody there has the same intention of helping and receiving. It's like everything is helping give. I think Ben does a really good job of curating and like it's not massive. I want to say I could be wrong, don't quote me, but I think it's 5,000 people overall, at least
Mhm.
like in the Slacks. But we have like awesome Slack groups. um Ben empowers people to uh start their own chats. He let me start a fashion tech one, which there's not a ton
Mhm.
of fashion tech in this group at all. It's all startup operators, and it's like perfect if you're a startup needing to find people or if you're an operator needing to find work. So I highly recommend uh, joining that group. And it's just something it's just such a great example of what I'm trying to explain around like community, because it's all about like even meetups. Every city has their own um that you're able to hang out with too in person. Um, and I think in that speaks over to like the partnerships that we're doing. They're from in person. Um, and I think the last thing I'd say, like, despite not being a founder at this point who's raised millions of dollars, I'm like speaking to you in that like stay as close, keep staying on the ground as much as you humanly possibly can, because that's where the answers lie. Keep going to networking, keep figuring out communities. Don't just be on the panel, you know, go listen to some of these people in the space that you just
Mhm.
don't even realize are coming up and could be in the end.
I love that. I wholeheartedly agree. I fall into the trap too. Let me take a week to go heads down to get this up and this up and this up. And by the end of the week, I said, who did I talk to? Now I'm unsure about my vision and my problem because you didn't stay connected.
Completely. Can't work in a silo. No one
Yeah,
can.
I love that.
Yeah.
Any last parting words? I know you just gave some great actionable advice, but I wanted to thank you for being on. This was amazing. I hope that people find it really valuable, if anything, to feel connected in terms of their challenges and knowing that they're not alone. Like when we
Absolutely.
when we read that being an entrepreneur is difficult, these are the things that we mean. And I think sometimes until you've experienced it, it you don't appreciate it.
Completely. Absolutely. I mean, I think one thing on that note too is like there are multiple ways to get to one answer. And to our LinkedIn chat, like you open it and it's just filled with hot takes. Just do your best to realize they're just hot takes. They're not the truth. They're just an opinion of someone else. And you will reach your own assumption from your own trial and error, ultimately. And the only way to get to that side, like less gave, is through community and people,
Mhm.
ultimately.
I would love to see you make that post saying you've raised $5,000. People love the underdog. Try it. Let's see.
Maybe when we want,
And you
yeah,
challenged
yeah.
me to make a post too. I've been holding
Yeah.
off on my post. So this is our challenge. You do the
Okay.
5,000. I'll do I just hit 25,000 views or, 43 subscribers.
Yes. Yes. Your Substack, 65 subscribers, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Okay. Fair. I
Add it
like
all
it. I
together.
like it. Let's do it. I'm in. Amazing. Well,
Perfect.
thank you so much for the time. It was
Thank
awesome
you
to
so
chat with you.
much. This has been great. Take care.
Thank you.